Mumonkan, case 46. Proceed on from the top of the pole. Sekiso asked, "How can you proceed on from the top of 100-foot pole?" Another Zen teacher of old said, "One who sits on the top of 100-foot pole has attained a certain height and has entered the way. Yet he still is not handling Zen freely. He should proceed on from there and appear with his whole body in the 10 directions of the universe." Mumon's comment: "If you go on further, turn your body about, turn your gaze around. There will then be no place left where you are not the master. But even so, tell me again, how will you go on from the top of 100-foot pole? Tell me, eh?" Mumon's verse: "The man who lacks the third eye of insight will cling to the measure of 100 feet. Even though he may sacrifice his life, he will be like a blind man leading the blind." First, before we start with the koan, let us go back a little bit to basics. Let us go back to ABC. What is meant by enlightenment in our tradition? Well, when we start our lives, when we are just born, we are all bathed in light. In early childhood, we maintain therefore a measure of playfulness, spontaneity, creativity, because we are bathing in this light. In fact, one should say this light never leaves us, yet we gradually learn to ignore it and start raising artificial and imagined barriers whereby we create duality. For example, we take this body as ourselves. The body is here, a little me inside of it, and the outside world over there. This we do by creating a set of tensions in the body, to artificially even feel ourselves more like this is me and this is duality. Inside these tensions, me, outside of it, the world. Or take thoughts. We usually produce a network of thoughts and daydreams, and we do so consciously to create again a sense of separation, whereby I am the one inside this network of thoughts and the world is outside of it. Another example are our feelings. We create all kinds of feelings and we use them to create a boundary between that which is inside of them and the world which is outside. Or a fourth example, our ego personality with all its characteristics, all its role-playing. I am that, we think, this little puppet, and a battle rages outside of it, creating again dualism with me here, the ego, and the world out there. But as we already said, the light which sees this whole game, this light really never leaves us. It's like movies played on a screen. Even if we may forget this screen, the screen is always there. But then at age 2, 4, or 5, we start really imagining this body, this network of thoughts, these feelings, or this ego as being me. And that is where all the trouble starts. We then imagine ourselves as being cut and separated from the light of being. It then seems like paradise is lost. It then is like Adam and Eve have left the Garden of Eden. And we start more and more feeling imprisoned. I would say there are 4 categories of people. Many people never break through this artificial shell and are quite okay with it. Life is okay with this dualism. It's a nice game of tennis or bridge. They enjoy their job and their colleagues. They enjoy a vacation in the Mediterranean, and they enjoy a good meal in a restaurant. And that's what makes them happy, and they are content. I would say this category of people form the vast majority. A second group of people seem to be living unhappy lives. And when that happens, they start searching for happiness. They start searching for happiness in objects, a new car, a new home, or in relationships, a new friend, a new lover, or in events, go to concert, go to sports events, or alcohol, or in drugs, and even some of us seek happiness in spiritual experiences like samadhi, but don't really get liberated by it. So this forms a second category of people. But then I would like, the numbers are getting smaller, to identify a third category of people who have some spontaneous awakening experiences. So for them, the shell in which they have learned to live from childhood suddenly breaks open for a bit. And this is what we can call a glimpse. They're getting a glimpse of this light which they had known so well when being born. This can happen maybe during a nature walk. You're walking, you're surrounded by beauty, and suddenly all boundaries disappear and you get this sense of oneness. There's no more shell, there's just wonderful happiness and nature. Or it can happen during a religious service sometimes. Or it can happen when you fall in love. Suddenly you fall in love and all your usual, limitations fall away. Everything is beautiful. The whole world seems beautiful then. Or it can happen when you listen to concert or when you view some visual art in a museum. I mean, there are so many ways where a person can suddenly get a glimpse of this light. I would like then to conclude with a fourth category of people, even fewer I would say, where this kind of light experience become their ground. They have established themselves in it, and they know at each moment that what they are is not this body-mind, but the light itself. When that happens, the search ends. Life just then becomes a beautiful play. Love is everywhere, just like the child in a way. I suggest you take a moment now or a little later to see in which of these four categories you may belong. It may be interesting to do so. But we are going to go back now to today's koan. Today's koan deals with the moment on this path where one obtains a glimpse into our true nature. So a glimpse, but probably the first time that it happens to us. And when this happens, we often encounter a moment of panic. A bit like someone who clings to a 100-foot pole and then lets go for a second and then panics, becomes uneasy and experiences vertigo. This happens because we have been so accustomed throughout years and years of life to cling to this sense of I am the body, to cling to this sense of I am this network of thoughts, or to cling to the sense of I am this ego, that when they let go, they feel vertigo. They feel like falling. And that is what is referred to in this koan. So let's read the main case again. Sekiso asked, how can you proceed on from the top of a 100-foot pole? Another Zen teacher of old said, one who sits on the top of a 100-foot pole has attained a certain height and has entered the way. Yet he still is not handling Zen freely, still clinging there. He should proceed on from there and appear with his whole body in the 10 directions of the universe. So, to you the viewer, how do we proceed from there when you are sitting on this pole? Instead of continuing to talk about this, I would suggest we do a little meditation exercise, a meditation experiment inspired by one of my many Advaita teachers when I was younger, Douglas Harding. It may work for you, it may not work for you. If it doesn't work for you, no worries, it may work for you another time. So for this meditation exercise, I would invite you to keep your eyes open and look intently to your screen or to your handy and even closer to it if possible. and look at my face. First, see its form. See that it has several different colors. See its different parts, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, a very little bit of hair. See the expression on this face. A happy face, serious face, sad face. See the lips and see how they move. And notice how this image of this face is very much outside of you, out there at about 20 centimeters or so. Now, I would like to invite you to shift your focus from this image of this face, which is out there, to the space which views it, which is where you are sitting. Ask yourself, in what space does this face appear? What sees the face? So again, to make it very clear, I'm asking you to shift your gaze around from this face over here to that space over where you're sitting, which views this face. Turn around your gaze, in other words. You will notice that while you can see two eyes over here, you don't see any eyes over there. Over there, where you're sitting, there is only aware space. And while you can see two ears on this screen over here, can you see any ears where you're sitting? Or is there just aware space? And you may see a nose on this screen, on this image. But can you really see a nose over there where you're sitting? Or is there just aware space in which this image appears in you? Same with this mouth. You can see a mouth over here, but can you see a mouth where you are? Or just aware space? And what in fact is it that sees my face? Are you seeing my face with your eyes? Or are you seeing this image of my face with your brain? Or are you seeing this face on this screen with your body? Or do you just see this face in space? Lucid, transparent space in which this face can appear. So ask yourself, what is that space over there where you're sitting? While my face has a form, does the space where you are have any form, or is it formless? And while my face seems to be limited, does your space have any limitations? Or is it boundless, containing everything? And while this face here has different colors, does your space that views it, does that have any colors? Or is it colorless, leaving room for all colors to appear in? And while you can see these lips moving and my other muscles of my face as well, is there any movement in the space where you are? Or is it motionless, still? And while this image of the face appears to be 20 centimeters away from you, doesn't the space which you are appear at 0 centimeter away? Your intimate self. It's like face over there is facing emptiness where you are, isn't it? Some refer to this space as consciousness, or as void, or as emptiness, or shunyata, or in Zen circle we call it true nature or Buddha nature. But does it really matter what it is called? Question to you. Maybe when realizing this and realizing that what you truly are is that space rather than a body or rather than your thoughts, maybe you might have experienced vertigo, a sense of uneasiness, because you're losing your usual way of seeing things. So this concludes our meditation exercise. We still need to cover Mumon's comment and Mumon's verse. Mumon's comment first. If you go on further, that is further than the 100-foot pole, turn your body about, turn your gaze around, there will be no place left where you are not the master. Indeed, isn't that exactly what we have done in our meditation exercise? Turning our gaze around. And when you can make your ground of being that aware space in any circumstance in life, you would be a master of any situation. But even so, it continues, tell me again, how will you go on from the top of 100-foot pole? Tell me, Well, we just did the exercise, so we don't need to elaborate on this. Mumon's verse. The man who lacks the third eye of insight, so a man who still clings on the top of his pole and does not want to let loose, will cling to the measure of 100 feet. And even though he may sacrifice his life, he will be like a blind man leading the blind. Some people start conveying these messages a little too quickly. You must have tasted these experiences yourself, not once, not a few times, but in many, many life circumstances before you should communicate this to others, because if you don't wait until that moment, you will be like a blind man leading the blind. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this recording, and mostly that you may have had a glimpse into your true nature, into your aware space. Have a wonderful day.